Yay, it works! Right, good afternoon everyone. One Know and Be Known coming up. Starting with a thank you to Barry for a title. I thought that would make you laugh. Yes. Because what else is life but a first draft? You only get one go. You throw it down, you keep going. So we'll keep going. And we start off. That unfortunate photograph is me. I'm about 5 years old in that photograph. And that is the first point at which my life got interesting. I've had what you might call a varied life. On this occasion, or shortly after that photo was taken, it was my brother's birthday. He was around about 8, 9, somewhere around there. And we had recently moved to a new house. And he was playing in the garden with whichever aunts and uncles it was that were happy to play in the garden with a 9-year-old. Me being that much younger, I was in the back room with the aunts and uncles that preferred to sit down and drink tea and gossip. And the game Roger was playing was tag. And he came racing up the garden. Now, I have no idea. I was 5. It might have been that the French doors were meant to be home. He might have been thinking he'd run inside. I have no idea. But you can guess what comes next, can't you? Straight through the glass. And that is the point at which I learnt there are 2 types of people in this world. There's the people who panic and dither and scream. And there's the people who act, and who act fast, and they worry about what comes after. Turns out that in that particular party there were only 2 people who acted, and that would be my mum and my grandmother. One grabbed Roger's shoulders so he couldn't move, the other started breaking the rest of the glass out of the window so that they could remove his arm without any further damage. I was quickly, as you might expect, whisked out of the way as being superfluous to the event. I have a vague memory of a very white-faced brother being carted off with a very white, only going red, towel around his arm, and he still to this day, we're talking 45 years on, has a scar running down the inside of his arm. It wasn't a good day. Roll on a few years, various events in between, but let's roll on to university. So I had great fun at university. I got kicked out of my digs at 24 hours notice. Building fire, where the dean decided to turn off the alarms because he thought that it wasn't necessary. So there's me at 2 in the morning getting people out of the building. And that is a completely other story. But this happened. I met my first boyfriend. Yay, I worked out what boys were for. Big mistake. I got engaged to him too. Even bigger mistake. Because within 6 months of that, I was standing on the end of Brighton Pier thinking, is it worth the effort of jumping? There is nothing worth staying here for. You learn a lot about yourself in those few minutes when you're standing there wondering whether you're going forwards or backwards. You learn an awful lot about yourself. One of the things I learnt is that what I wanted mattered to me far more than what he wanted. I spent 10 weeks in counselling, because I did step backwards, obviously, I'm still here. 10 weeks, I can't remember a single one of the sessions. I walked in, I burst into tears, and I walked out. There was an hour somewhere in between there. I don't know. But at the end of all that, I tried to hand back a ring, and he wouldn't take it back. He reckoned we had a permanent commitment, tough luck, I was effectively married. To which he found the ring hidden in his pack, and when he wouldn't go away, I set my landlady's son's police dog on him and made him leave. It wasn't nice. Some people really don't take no for an answer very well indeed. Nice dog though, really nice dog. I liked that dog. So life moves on again. We've now rolled on another 6 years. And that is me on my wedding day, in a dress which is known in the family as the jungle dress. Because, as you can probably tell from the picture, there's a scene of the jungle around there. It's all around the hem as well. It's a really nice dress. I've still got it. I'll get back into it soon. That is my other half, Richard, looking, actually, somebody said he looked very happy. He's not. He's extremely put out. Because the other photo, that is his car. He's a Tottenham fan. The best man's an Arsenal fan. Yeah, that was fun. I liked that. So, not everything in my life has been down. Some things have been up. And we rattle quickly on to windows on the world. These are all the different jobs I've done over the years. My first job when I was 16, chef. Weekend chef, catering for between 30 and 50 disabled children, roast meals to a deadline. So if I tell you meals going on table at 7, trust me, it goes on table at 7. I don't do 5 past, I do 7. Print manager, that was a fun job. I managed a print company called Gold Cover, an awful lot of mixed stuff. We worked out of a barn in Westerham, which was infested with rats. I would never have gone barefoot there, trust me. You always wore very stout shoes, and the first person in the morning went in with a lump of wood. And yes, I have brained a fair number of rats in my time. They brought the Jack Russells round on a regular basis, but it never quite improved things. I've also spent an awful long time with my head inside the guts of printers, trying to fix problems. But can I just say, industrial guillotines, my God, they're awful machines. What else have I done in that lot that's interesting? Plumber's mate, that was fun. Gurkha Barracks at Woolwich. Went up there as basically carrying the kit of the plumber I worked for, because he'd done his back in and he needed a Girl Friday. Women aren't allowed in Gurkha Barracks. Very strict rule. Women are not allowed in Gurkha Barracks. I had to have an armed guard and be escorted by a Gurkha all the way around. Now, I am not particularly tall, but Gurkhas are actually shorter than me, which is novel. I'm not used to people being shorter than me. But more to the point, he had his kukri out because I was escorted by an armed guard, very obviously. Now, presumably he had to slice his thumb before he could put it back away again, because you're not allowed to bear a blade without drawing blood with the Gurkhas, if you didn't know that. You never draw a blade without giving it its price, and the price of a blade is blood. You learn an awful lot fixing giant woks. You also learn that army kitchens are not good places, even Gurkha ones. The Gurkha ones are pretty clean. Standard Forces kitchens are mucky places. They can't clean for toffee. That's my dad. It's not a very good photo, I'm sorry. I couldn't find a very good one. Mum's got the only ones that haven't been destroyed. Silly woman, she was so upset when she lost him. But 2013 is a year I do not enjoy remembering. It's only 5 years ago, so we've gone rattling through my life. I founded a business called Crocus Bookkeeping on the 27th of February 2013. 27th of February was my father's birthday. It was his 80th birthday. Mum and Dad decided not to celebrate his 80th birthday because it was going to be their golden wedding that year. He died 6 weeks later. He was there long enough to see me get my first client. And the shock I had when I took him to see the doctor the day before he died, he had various problems, but he had problems with his feet. And I had to lift him from the bench to a chair. And he weighed nothing. He kept it all hidden. He weighed nothing. And he woke up the next morning and fell over dead with an aortic aneurysm. And that was the start of a year of hell, because within 10 months there had been 10 close friends and family deaths, including one of my school friends who died of plague in this day and age, 2 of my school friends who died of cancer. The rest were aunts and uncles and various relatives, but far too many died young. One of the consequences of my father's sudden death was my daughter Hazel developed a condition which we had diagnosed by the September of positional orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. This is a heart condition where the heart races uncontrollably. It's associated with any number of autonomic disorders. The key ones for her are something called Euler-Danlos, which is hypermobility or extreme double jointedness. She has some form of gut absorption disorder, which they're still trying to define. And she has a thyroid disorder, Hashimoto's I think it's called, which mimics ME. In fact, if you look up ME, you'll find that it is made up of several different autonomic disorders. And POTS and Hashimoto's are 2 of them. She may have the full set. I may outlive my daughter. It's not a pleasant thought. Also that year, presumably also brought on by shock, my mum developed a very noticeable heart condition and was supposed to be having a triple heart bypass, but she reacted so badly to the anaesthetic and she had a lung collapse on the table that they cut the operation short, called me in and said, sit with her, we don't know if she's making it through the night. Another day I'd really love to forget and never will. And my brother, who can be everything that you might think a brother would be, and he was all of them. He decided to sell his house, his flat, to an equity release company who said, oh yeah, we'll hand you back a lease, you can stay there as long as you like. And he was the only one who didn't see it coming when they said, oh no, you've been here a year, bye, off you go, vamoose. He was the only one who never saw it coming. He now lives at home with Mum. That's a 2-edged sword. And somewhere in that year, I built a business. And if you could tell me how, please do, because I haven't got a clue. But I did. A business from 0 to something like £500 or £600 a month turnover across those 10 months. And to this day, I have no idea how I did it, other than the fact that Duracell bunny from hell, but hey, you know. So that business, that was my rock, I think, during that year. It gave me something to focus on, something to put my anger into. Building business in anger is probably not a good move, but it's what I did. And I did it very, very well. In the space of 2.5 years, I took that business from 0 to something over 3,000 a month turnover. I had my first little apprentice. Yay, I actually took on staff. It was brilliant. And I had so much work. I was doing, 60-hour weeks, plus training, plus everything else that goes with building a business. And I thought, yeah, this is great. This is going where I want it to go. This is brilliant. Until 2 years ago, where I was at work. I was on site with a client in Tadworth. And at 4:45 on the 21st of June 2016, I had a heart spasm. That's not a heart attack. That's basically a minor blockage that happens just outside the pericardic sac. So you don't get the hormone markers. But you know, I'm British. It's a bit of pain, yeah, whatever. I carried on working. I finished my day. Walked down to the car. It took me something like half an hour to walk 200 yards. I have never been so tired in my life before or since. And I sat in the car for half an hour before I moved it, thinking, I've got to take this car home. If I leave it here, it's a real problem for Richard. So I drove home I walked into the house, I told the kids, I'm feeling a bit tired, wandered upstairs, and then texted Richard what had happened. Well, to say he hit panic buttons is probably being a little... I think he broke the sound barrier coming home. A paramedic turned up pretty much as he did. I had a blood pressure of 240 over 200. You are actually meant to explode at that point, I'm told. It held that high for over 8 hours, and they couldn't find a reason for it. There were no hormone markers, I hadn't had a heart attack. There was nothing wrong with me, except I had stupendously high blood pressure. They eventually, at about 3 in the morning, gave me medication to take it down and sent me home as the dawn was cresting over the road, over the horizon. I went to see the GP later that day, who said, no, well, there's nothing wrong. Don't do anything, do we? So, yeah, we sort of informed the doctor that that was not quite how it was going to go, and we would like to know the reasons why. Thank you all the same. So 5 weeks later, I went to the Rapid Access Heart Clinic. Don't ask. They tell you have to stay on the treadmill for about 10 minutes for them to get enough information to work out what's wrong with you. I fell off after 5, so dizzy I couldn't stand. And they sort of had a minor panic attack and told me I needed an angiogram. At that point, I said, I have private. And they said, where do we sign? So I did that and had, it was ridiculous. And I spent weeks, basically, up until that angiogram, not knowing whether going to bed at night meant waking up in the morning or doing what my dad did and just keeling over dead. The first question I got from my brother-in-law is, your will done? Thank you, Simon. Love you too. Right, I'm safe to do that one. So, heart spasm, angiogram. Yeah, when they did the angiogram, they shove a pipe up your wrist, up and around your shoulder, around there, and they squirt ink into your heart or whatever it is, something that the X-ray machine can pick up, and they're doing live X-rays the whole time, and you see on a screen over there exactly what's going on in your heart, and even I could work out that those were not good pictures. But I'll tell you something else. You're not supposed to be able to feel that beeping pipe, and it scraped away. I also had several arterial spasms. What they learnt from that exercise is that, unlike the majority of adults, I do not have 3mm diameter veins and arteries, I only have 2mm diameter veins and arteries. This is a hereditary problem and is why I was there, basically, because I have a problem and it's not a fixable one. Bad plumbing. But what they found when the heart was 90% blockage in one artery, 80% in a second, 70% in a third, there are only 4. Was next week too soon for a triple heart bypass? I actually had it on the 1st of September and the operation went very well, apart from the fact that I too apparently do not react well to morphine. And can I just say, trying to heave when they've sliced your muscles all the way across there is hard. It is extremely hard and very uncomfortable. Now, the other word on that screen is a nasty word. It's a word that kills people. After I'd had this operation, which was a roaring success, and I'm still here, hey, my GP just couldn't work out why somebody who was 3 weeks out of major surgery might have a high clotting factor. Bit thick, my GP. So he sent me to, what's its official name now? The Croydon University Hospital. I'm sorry, but for anyone who's lived in Croydon, it has another name. It was originally Mayday and is colloquially known as Mayday. There are very good reasons for it. They wanted to do a scan of my legs to make sure there wasn't a deep vein thrombosis. This is a perfectly reasonable thing to do, I suppose. Except that they don't clean their kit properly and the operator didn't know what she was doing. So having been told, whatever you do, do not knock the scabs, guess what? It took me an hour to convince some of the staff, nurses, that what they needed to do was actually find a plaster because I was dripping on the floor. And I'm not actually, unfortunately, joking. And not too surprisingly, being in a germ-filled hospital for that length of time with an open wound, guess what? Septicemia. For 3 weeks, my GP and the hospital denied it. No, there's nothing wrong. You just need a course of antibiotics. It's because you've had the operation, blah, blah, blah. You'll be fine. And then I went to my 6-week checkup with the surgeon up in London, who had one look at me, said, Christ, I'm flying out to India tomorrow. Right, we're operating today. You go that way. And that is what he found. And I will take it off the screen if anyone's squeamish. That is septicemia in the raw. We'll get rid of it for you. That was a very uncomfortable time. I was on full blood thinners, as everyone who's had that operation is always given. So operating on somebody on full blood thinners is pretty darn difficult, not to mention dangerous. I had to have 2 secondary operations. One on the chest there. That picture was, that hole was the size of a 50p coin and about 2 coins deep. There was a similar hole on my ankle. And a third slightly there where one of the drains was. So he operated and cleaned all of those and restitched and resealed and so on. And they thought they'd managed to pack everything properly and all the bleeding had stopped, so they sent me home. And I woke up at 3 in the morning thinking, what's that wet stuff? Hemorrhage. I've never seen Richard panic before. I did then. He drove me straight to East Surrey Hospital, since neither of us were prepared to trust Mayday. Can't think why. And I spent 20 minutes on my back with a very nice young doctor leaning heavily on me. After which that compression did solve the problem and everything, but I've never been on blood thinners since. Normally, once you've had one of these operations, they keep you on some form of blood thinner, be it aspirin or one of the stronger blood thinners, pretty much the rest of your life. I am not on blood thinners. But one of the things I will say is, after all of that, and I spent another week in hospital after that on IV antibiotics to get rid of the septicemia, after all that, you sort of think, well, why have you come through this? Because I'd gone in thinking, well, I'm not going to come out of this anyway because, my dad died that way, my grandparents died that way, most of my family's died that way, you don't survive this, blah, 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 blah. I wasn't expecting to be alive at this point anyway. I was very much expecting my husband to have to cash in on the fact that I was extremely well insured. But I am still here. Why? There has to be a reason. And from that, and the endless weeks of being flat on my back going, just why? Why any of it? Just why? You work out that actually you have to move forward. You have to do something. And having said goodbye to one life, probably time I built a new one. One that had a bit more purpose to it than, sorry Nick, just doing books. Sorry, if for the room who doesn't know, one of our guests happens to be one of my clients. I do his bookkeeping.
I'm glad to have you here today.
I'm pretty glad to be here myself. So I decided that the way forward was to do more with the skills I had. Now, the skills I have are not just maths. I said I've been to university. I have a degree in mathematics and computer science. I'm a bookworm. And computer science at that point and in that place meant Horowitz and Hill for anyone who's done electrical engineering. It is the Bible, or was at that point. It's probably been superseded. That was 30 years ago. But I have an inquiring mind, as most people in this room do. So I know an awful lot about all sorts of different things. Not all about everything, obviously, hardly. But I know a reasonable amount about a very wide range of things. And an awful lot of different jobs, as you saw from the list earlier. And that led me to the fact that, well, I'm moderately well organised. I'm pretty good with numbers. And I know all this stuff. What do I do with it? What came of it is Business Whisperer, which is intuitive planning. Sounds like a contradiction in terms, feels like a contradiction in terms, but works. And I describe it as building TARDISes. Because when you look at a business on the outside, it looks smooth and it's sleek, and you see the focus is there and that and that. But when you move in, it grows and it develops, and it's like, I don't know, Medusa. It's so many snakes and so on. It twists and it turns. And finding the patterns in that and how you can make it go in the direction you want is great fun, to be honest. And so we come on to the things that I think of when I think about building a business. Implicit and explicit goals, hidden capabilities, etc., etc. Systemic win, I'm going to attribute Paul for that. He gave a name to something I didn't realise I was already doing. The situation where everything you do, you're trying to make sure that everyone wins, and that includes the ecosystem around you. You want everything to end up positive. It's a very loose description of it. It'll do for now. I can't obviously go through the whole of that. I've got half an hour left. There just isn't time. So what I thought I would pick on for today is implicit goals and hidden capabilities. We all have skills we don't use. You might think of them as hobbies, interests. You might not even think of them at all, but you have them. Number of times I've seen people say, oh, but I'm no good with numbers, but they're brilliant cooks. You cannot cook without knowing your numbers. You cannot. You go shopping. You cannot shop without understanding numbers to some extent. Most of our lives are built around numbers and patterns. And a lot of people will not acknowledge what it is they can actually do. So many people have brilliant goals. That's fantastic. But if you're not using all your talents, you're missing a trick. And that is what I wanted to sort of move on to. Because how do you know which tricks you're missing? How do you find out how you're missing these tricks? You know, all this stuff. One of the first ways of thinking about it is to do something called a timeline. Thank you. Or lifeline. Lifeline is a very simple thing, as you can see from that, because that's totally blank. Nobody's got a life like that. You start off with a sheet of paper, you draw a line, and you go, that was a positive thing, that was a really crap thing, and that was a sort of okay-ish thing. And you go along, sort of chronological if you can, and you try and build yourself your own lifeline. Don't try and do it for somebody else because you don't know their lives. You're not in their skin. You build a lifeline, and then you look at it and you think about it. And what I wanted to do was to get everyone to do a lifeline. So if we sort of ask you to pass a couple along the line, and sort of, and pass them back and so on. You've got a whole load there. I'll show you a lifeline, so you know roughly what I'm talking about. Thank you. Sorry? Yes, plainer ones. Have we got any more going? There's some more at the back there. I think they're needed down here. Thank you, Stuart. Has everyone got one?
Yeah.
Brilliant. That's a lifeline. That's my one. I really, really hope that nobody's gets as complex as that. As I said, I've had an interesting life. Don't have to start at birth. You can start wherever you like. You can put in the things you want. That is a particularly personal lifeline. Yours can be just business events. It can be whatever you want it to be. It's your life. And I'll give you 5 or 6 minutes to think about it.
Sorry, what's the bits along the top?
Oh, sorry. Those are the different schools. So I'm going to have to step across this slightly. That's the first school I went to, St David's. I then went to a school called the Convent. I then went to Baston, which was where I did my GCS, O-levels and A-levels, let's be honest, because I am that old. That's when I was a stay-at-home mum, and that would be when I started my business, pretty much. Going on from there.
So the degree of the...
Oh, doesn't really matter. I mean, I just happen to... You can do it however you like. I mean, some things I thought were more positive or more negative than others. So you've got grids there so you can make things more positive or more negative if that's what suits you.
So can you use this up? What's your number 6 and your number 12?
I'll go through these. So that's the event with Roger with the glass. That was when I changed schools to the convent, and I really didn't like the convent. At that point, the convent wouldn't call my mum when I was ill one day. And it turned out I was really ill because by the time they were forced to call her 3 hours later, I had peritonitis. So another emergency operation. And from the upshot of that, I got scarlet fever. Yay! I don't do things by halves. That's when I went to Baston. That's number 4. Number 5? Okay. No, they're labelled in order. It's just a chronological event. I can read through the lot if you want. Assaulted by the milkman, made deputy head girl of my school. Assaulted by a teacher. Yes, these things did happen. That one there is a bike crash, as it happens. That one's when I went to Brighton Poly. That was when the nutty landlord chucked me out. It's when I got engaged and tried to jump off a pier. That was the building fire. That would be when I came off the trampoline, somewhere around there. I did my back in and had to learn to re-walk a second time. That takes me to about there. That's when I got married. Yeah, so that's graduated, that's married, that's Hazel, that's Pippa. That would be, Pippa having to be me carrying her through the doors of A&E and then holding her down on a table while the medics rammed needles into her arm to save her life because she was dehydrated. My autistic younger daughter who decided that water was poisonous and refused to drink. You try holding your child down while somebody slams needles into their arms. I don't care if they're saving her life, it kills you. So that was all that lot. Became an Avon rep, fell down the stairs, crushed the wrist, got permanent nerve damage. And Avon clawed back 3 campaigns worth of money, charming people. That's when I got awarded my AICB and launched Where have we got there? That's the year of hell. Go back. That must be the AICB. So that's the trip down the stairs. AICB, that's when I launched Crocus and my year of hell. Go back up to bought and built my office. Yes, 2 tons of lumber that were delivered onto my driveway the morning Richard flew out to India. 2 weeks later, I had built the office without him there, and that was very, very deliberate. And it's a long story. Hazel's collapse at uni. Yes, she decided to go to uni. She really, really wanted to go to uni. She went in September. By the Easter, I had had enough, and I went down and I said, I'm drawing the line under this. She weighed 6 stone. She's 5'9". It's ridiculous. She was skin and bones. She couldn't stand. She had to be carried to the car. She couldn't stand. It took 3 months for her to put on enough weight that she could walk across from her bedroom to the bathroom reliably. Like I said, I've had an interesting life. So that was rescuing her there. Where were we? Did that. Heart stuff, yeah. Oh yeah, 3 days after I got signed off from all this stuff at the hospital. So I got signed off eventually after all the septicemia and stuff by end of November. 3 days later, 3rd of December, Richard got made redundant. Bang went our private medical cover. Literally 3 days after. Don't go there. Join BeColl. That's my happy marker for this year, last year. I don't know where I'm going from here. We'll find out.
But it's going up.
Yeah, it's going up.
Hooray.
I'm not expecting anyone to have a life like mine. Please don't have a life like mine.
There's an awful lot of parallels, coincident. Daughter nearly, nephew was fell through the glass, and my mother was kind of pulsing out. My mother put a towel around her. Luckily, they lived in the other half of the semi, and so it's uncanny.
Sorry.
I was there with you if there were a number of those things, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's just not good, is it? Yeah, and going head first under resus is so much fun. So have fun.
Yes. You want us to create our own now.
Yeah, but you know,
Not quite as exciting.
it's nicer not to be exciting, actually, I think. I have no idea what a quiet life is. I've never had one.
How long are you giving us?
You can have about another 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah, give us more than
Oh, all right.
that. Cut into your Q&A time. I'm too busy listening to you all that.
Yeah, great fun. Wasn't so fun when I was living it, I tell you. The thing is, that doesn't tell you the whole story, does it? That is just a set of events. Most of the time, we live on equilibrium. We're living on that line, neither up nor down. That makes it look very, very dramatic. Most of it wasn't that dramatic. I had a very happy childhood, apart from the school who didn't like me, and believe me, that was mutual. I really enjoyed school. I enjoyed university, even though I did fall off a trampoline and botch my back and rip ligaments and end up walking with a stick for 13 years, until I had to learn to re-walk, or relearn to walk, get the words in the right order. That was interesting. I still have a balance board at home, and it's why I'm now barefoot. I actually find it more comfortable. I'm not expecting you to show me these. I'm not expecting you to share them with anyone. Lifelines are, I think, personal. If you want to share them, that's up to you. If you can think of about 10 or 12 things, it doesn't have to be as complex as mine. How are you doing? Do you need another minute?
Yeah, I found it slightly confusing. Quite a lot of the time it was good stuff going on and bad stuff going on.
Yeah, almost simultaneously.
And the balance was sort of just below the line, but the good stuff was really good and the bad stuff
was really, really crap, yeah.
yeah.
And you rock it from one level to the other, and you really do. And 1 minute it's, yes, brilliant, on top of the world, and then down in the dumps again.
I've drawn mine in nice steady curves and steady lines and steady...
Fun!
That's my second marriage, that one.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, that went well. Yes. I'm sorry, can you say... I think it is quite common to go from one extreme to the other, yes. Because I think the only way you recognise that you're plumbing the depths is because you've been at the heights. Yeah. I think it's going to depend on different people. For me, it's been very extreme. I've gone from one extreme to the other, literally in the space of days sometimes. For others, it will be a gradual thing. For some, it's going to be, you know, oh, that wasn't very good. Oh, another not very good thing. And then slowly you're creeping downwards. Or, oh, that was quite good. That was okay. Hey, we're getting somewhere. And a gradual climb up. Yeah, it will go both ways. If we were all the same, life would be very boring. So, yes, of course, it's going to be different for everybody. I've left a few things out there which were sort of intermediate level stuff, which are, they're there and they live with me, like being lost for over 3 hours when I was about 7 years old on a beach, where they had to call the lifeguard out. That was, you know, it's left me with problems because I now hate being, I hate not knowing where my exits are and where I've got to be. I've never been to a beach since, I'll be perfectly honest, I hate beaches. Which means my kids have never had a beach holiday, unless Richard's taken them to a beach while we've been somewhere else. So they've never had the fun of engineering moats and what have you that he considers to be the pinnacle of summer holidays. But I've said, well, fine, you take them because I'm just not interested. I don't want to be there. And that can be on a cove the size of this room where you cannot get lost if you tried. But no, I don't do that anymore. I don't like beaches very much. But there you go. I don't like crowded spaces either, for a very similar reason. But anyway, for anyone who's managed to put something down as part of a lifeline or timeline, whatever you want to call it, there's things you need to sort of look at, and it's how you find those hidden abilities and possibly even some of your implicit goals. If you look at the highs and think about them individually, what you were doing, where you were, the people who were around you, stuff like that, see if there's anything that's in common between them, because that's something you should pick up on. So, made deputy head of the school, has been put in charge of people, and I got a lot of response from my peer group that they liked the fact I was very organised. Fire at the university, I'm the one at 3 in the morning going down the corridor going bang on the doors to wake up these stupid mop-headed 18-year-old girls in their baby dolls who can't even work out they need to grab a dressing gown and slippers before they run out into the snow. Yeah, you think I'm joking. Again, what's the theme there? It's organisation. If you look at all the highs, somewhere in there, it's being organised. That is one of my really key things. I am an organised person, and I have been for most of my life. A heck of a lot of stuff happens to me, but I'm the organised one. So, for example, I was in a situation where I was with a friend in their garage. They were doing something with a drill. The drill slipped. They started slicing their hand off. Yeah, well, fortunately, I didn't do that, Jill. It was, and I pulled his hand away and then hit the power and then started clearing up the mess. But the point is, I know how I react in these situations. I've learnt that about myself. I learnt it very young, and most people don't need to. But you need to know how you're going to react. You need to understand that. And this sort of thing can help you find those things. I know that I'm the person who gets their hands in and gets dirty, who wants to be in there sorting it out, finding the answers to the problems. That is very much what I do. You can learn a lot from stuff at the bottom too. The things that really do the exact opposite of float your boat. They are complete torpedoes. I don't do hospitals very well. Been there, done that, and had the t-shirt well ruined. I don't go there. Things like that. So, what else have we got there? I don't know how to handle myself when I get attacked. It's something I need to learn about. I've been attacked twice. I was a teenager in both instances. Being assaulted by your school teacher is not something that most kids go through. Thank God. That was on a school ski trip. Stupid ass did it in front of the headmaster and was finding himself a new job 2 weeks later. He also didn't get what he was after. Such a shame. He decided to jump on. We were having a après ski evening. It was a school ski trip. We were tobogganing down a field. So he decided that I looked like a likely candidate for him and jumped on the back of the toboggan, sent it scooting down the hill at tremendous speed while having a quick grope. Thank you very much. So he got an elbow in his ribs and I rolled sideways at the last minute and he crashed into the fence. Well, on that occasion I could. Didn't do so well when it was the milkman though. That one took me totally by surprise. So yeah, things like that. But you can learn from these things. So I'm not going to ask anyone to share because, as I said, unless you really feel you want to, this sort of stuff is very personal. I'm choosing to share it today because it helps you to know about me and it helps you to understand how I can help you. But unless you want to share it, we'll throw it open to general questions. I've silenced another flipping room. Nick?
Are you surprised by the fact that it goes up, down, straight back up, down, straight back up, down, straight back up?
I was when I drew it out. It didn't feel like that at the time.
Do you draw any correlations from any conclusions? Sorry.
I've got a very short memory. No, I don't. I think that when you're a teenager, you feel everything in a very extreme way. Everything is very black and white. There is no in between. As for that lot, it felt like that. I really did feel like I was being catapulted up in the air and tossed in a blanket or something. Because one day you would be high and everything would be great, and the next day somebody else had died, or Hazel had collapsed, or Pippa was being particularly autistic and smashing stuff, or something else had happened. And it just, you ricocheted from disaster to disaster for years. It was chaotic.
You say you're very organised.
Generally.
Right brain.
Yeah.
You allow yourself to go to the other side.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Where's that?
That isn't in there, surprisingly. I do it, but it doesn't feature for me. It's just another part of me.
To some extent, that's a very right brain thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's an element of, how can I put this? It's interesting, it doesn't feature in it.
No, but if you notice, almost none of that is work related.
I'm not talking about what I'm talking about.
No, but most of my work tends to be creative. I am a qualified knitwear designer. I paint Britannian night models. I am a pyrographer. I burn pictures into wood. I garden an awful lot. What else do I do? All sorts of stuff. I do a wide array of things, but these are all, yes, they are some of my hidden skills. Sorry, say again?
It's interesting why that was not even featured, even like with a suggestion.
Because
There's
it's
so much emphasis on.
Because that's how my brain is wired. That's how I think. This is why I said everyone's timeline is going to be extremely different. Some people will have purely work. Some people will have purely, this skill was a fantastic thing to learn, this one really wasn't. Or things like that. There'll be such a variety. Everyone is so unique. Those are things I do, but they're not important enough to me to reach that.
What did you say?
They're not important enough to me. They're important to other people, quite frequently, but they're not important enough to me.
Wow. Okay.
They're the things that I will cast away if I have to.
Just, the creative side you sort of mentioned that they're not important enough to me.
Sorry, Scott, yes?
Yeah, the noise pages of the I just all through that, you said about discovering the love and discover your hidden skills.
Yes.
One is amazing, obviously, going through that, you're standing in front of the stars. So what has been, where's your hidden skill that come out that you didn't know that you had?
The skill that I didn't know I had out of that lot.
How long ago did you do this?
Sorry, how long ago? I did this last week
Okay.
to have an up-to-date one.
Something you do, you've done it a few times.
I've done it a few times over the years and different things have come out. But I would say that one of the hidden skills that's in there is the fact that I can mediate. And I didn't know I could do that. But if you want an example of that, it's a graphic one. The day my dad died, and I broke every speed limit known to get there in time, and I didn't. But we obviously trolled off after the ambulance to the hospital. And we had to go in and do the formal identification, even though, you know, I picked him up from the house and all that. You have to go and do a formal identification of the rapidly cooling corpse. And over Dad's body, my brother turns round to my mum and myself and says, "Oh, by the way, I'm gay." And my mum very nearly decked him. And my mum is not a violent woman. She doesn't even swear. I do, like a trooper. But she very nearly decked him for that. And amazingly enough, I managed to separate them. I don't actually like my brother very much. It probably shows. He goes, something of a waste of space in my view. But he's a brother. It happens. I kept the peace and sorted them out so that they could actually still live together. They now live in the same house, remember?
Has that showed up in that media a few times?
Yeah, because I had to mediate when there was the fire at the Hall of Residence. Yes, I was the person getting the people out, and that's why it's marked in my mind. But I was also doing a lot of mediation after the event between the various people because of how the fire came about. Being deputy head of a school, it's all about mediation, trust me. It's not just standing there with a pretty badge on your blazer. There's mediation in an awful lot of that. So I'd say that was one of my hidden skills.
I don't think you're a classic case of you mediating with this.
Yeah.
Jeremy
and Paul.
Trying to make sense out of systemic win. And Terry just goes, you're saying this, you're saying that, aren't you saying the same thing? And I sort of parent went, yeah.
It's just they were coming from completely opposite ends, that's all. Right, we are out of time, so we'll probably have to close it there.
So, thank you very much, Terry. There's a lot of you to say.